Welcome to Mercer Moments in American History. Today is a current event, but also an historical event. It's called Politics 101. Follow the money, honey. Repeat that with me. Politics 101. Follow the money, honey. I could also call it corruption or political corruption 101. You're going to enjoy today's session. You're going to hear some things you like and things you don't like. And I purposely will not mention names or entities, but I will draw my experience, my 16 years as an elected official to the Texas House of Representatives and Texas State Board of Education, never mentioning names, not pointing fingers, just giving you some things that I've witnessed, that I've seen, that you need to understand. Especially in today's society, we're talking so much government fraud, waste, corruption, abuse. I'm going to give you an easy picture of how things can happen. When you say, why did my elected official, why did my member of Congress, my U.S. Senate, why did they vote yes for this? Why would they support that? Who influences them? Who are they talking to? You're about to find out. Politics 101. Follow the money, honey, and I will not be surprised if you call it corruption 101. Follow the money, honey. Let's say you have an organization, and through your meetings you find there's about 100 different cities who do what you're doing. The service you provide, the investment, that's the way you talk to your donors, that they're making an investment into the community. Whatever service you have, and I'm not going to mention names, even entities, because you can probably figure out who they might be. And not that all are bad, but I can tell you not all are good. There are a lot of good ones out there doing some great things. Well, let's say you get 100 groups together. So we're going to form a committee, a GOTV, Get Out to Vote, and a PAC, Political Action Committee, of 100 groups. And let's say 5, 10, let's say 20 years ago you started this, you went to Congress, you said, we want you to invest in your community. We have 100 cities that impact every member of the U.S. Senate, all 100. That impact almost all the 435 members of the U.S. House. We'd like for you to invest $5 million a year for each 100 cities. That'd be $500 million. $5 million times 100 different cities, $500 million, and it impacts every state and almost every congressional district. But that first year, you're able to find members of the House and Senate who will support you. And it is either a standalone bill, I doubt that. It's probably an amendment to the bill for $500 million to invest in 100 different entities for whatever service you're giving, whatever service or investment in the community you have. So you get the money. Year one, 20 years ago, you get the first $500 million. You go to your 100 groups. Okay, I'm going to give you all $4.5 million each. What? $5 million? Well, I want you to directly or indirectly invest $500,000 each into our Political Action Committee, Get Out the Vote Committee. Well, then we only get $4.5 million. So let me ask you, that $4.5 or $5 million, what is the interest rate on that money? 0. How many payments do you have to make? 0. How much do you pay on taxes on that $4.5 to $5 million? 0. Do you see where I'm going, folks? They're getting free money. They're getting $500 million, and they're taking $50 million of that, 10%, which is again is 500,000 times 100 entities, $50 million for influencing and communicating with members of the U.S. House and U.S. Senate. And maybe state house, state senate, whatever it might be, for influencing and communicating to get out the vote. Now, let me ask you this. How many of you applied for small business loans, the Small Business Administration, or student loans for yourself or your children or grandchildren? How many of the things you applied for have a 0 interest rate? How many of those have 0 payments? That money is not available to you and me. The student loans are usually 10 years, 120 payments in the same Small Business Administration. And if you miss a payment, don't make one. What's going to happen to you? What's going to happen to your credit, to your business? They're going to garnish your wages. That free money is not available to you. But these entities who have the political strength together, who come together, they can get free money, and they can invest that money, because that $500 million with $50 million for a committee, is used to reinvest, to go back next year, ask for $500 million more. And you do the math. Well, I got to have at least 51 members of the U.S. Senate. There's 100. Have to have at least 51 to pass a bill. There's 435 members of the U.S. House. So I have to have, 218? Is that right, to pass a bill there? So together, about 270 elected officials, let's say 300. I want to influence and communicate 300 elected officials at the federal level. Influence and communicate. So the next year I can go back and they'll pass the bill again, or they'll add it on as an amendment somewhere else that nobody will see. What happens to that money? What if you could get, I can donate $100,000 to 300 campaigns. That'd be $30 million of the $50 million. And when you go back and you meet several times a year with that representative, you probably remind them that directly or indirectly, you are providing $100,000 to their re-election campaign. That might get their attention. I can do one vote a year. That one vote will mean $100,000. Isn't that a pretty good deal for you guys? Would you like the kind of opportunity? You do one yes vote, $100,000. But wait. We also have times throughout the year, at least twice a year, in your district, we have forums, we have fundraisers, and we'd be honored to have you as a guest speaker at lunchtime. You'd be literally on stage with a cup of coffee, and the audience, it's softball. It's all like-minded people, what I call a cream puffed or softball interview. You're there for 45 minutes. If you could, maybe an hour extra just to stand with people and take pictures. They all want pictures of you. They're supporters of you. Oh, by the way, if you come and talk at that 45-minute lunch once a year, we'll provide you an honorarium or a speaker's fee. An honorarium or a speaker's fee of, let's say, $20,000. At least twice a year, we have these functions. If you come both times, well, that could be $40,000. All of a sudden, you might think, if I vote yes on this, I have $100,000 in my campaign. I have $20,000 to $40,000 more of speaker fees, honorariums, and the events I go to, they're soft. I'm literally on a sofa drinking coffee, and the audience is all for me. Piece of cake, right? Of course, they would pay you that because they have a fundraiser, and they can say Representative so-and-so or Senator so-and-so is going to be here, draws more people, and a lot of their donors could also become your donors. You see where I'm going? Politics 101, folks. Follow the money, honey. And then they go back next year and ask you to pass it again. And this is sad. Sometimes the elected officials might even say, are you ready for this? Hold on to your seats. You asked for $500 million last year. Is that enough for this year, or do you need more? Now, if you're a business person, you might think like, wait a minute, I'm going to give you $500 million, and I'm only going to potentially get back $50 million? That's a terrible investment. And you want to come back next year? That's a horrible investment, 10%. Why would anybody do that? Why would you give someone $500 million to maybe get $50 million back unless it's not their money? Follow the money, honey. Unless it's not their money. That's political corruption 101. They're taking your money, going to give somebody else $500 million that you will never see. You don't get $500 million with no interest rate, no payments, no taxes. $500 million goes out there. They get $50 million back, which is a terrible investment, a terrible return on your investment, unless it's not your money. It's taxpayer money, but it's not the money of the politicians. You know, that's why you hear me often say to politicians, have you forgotten, it's not your stinking money. Pretty cold. The politicians, it's not your stinking money. It belongs to the people. And you can probably better understand now why the fraud and abuse that I fight against, it's so rampant in our country, how things can happen. So there you go, my friends. Politics 101. Follow the money, honey. You may call it corruption 101. Follow the money, honey. First, set up an organization. Find out who you want to communicate with and influence. Get that free money, again, with zero interest, zero payments, zero taxes. Get that money in year one, reinvest it so that every year you can go back to those same members of Congress. What a deal. You're probably thinking, hey, Ken, where can I sign up to get free money every year? Again, with zero interest, zero payments, zero taxes. You can't, folks. But now you understand more of what's happening. Let me say what could be happening. I'm going to be cautious. I didn't mention names. Did I mention any names? No. Did I mention any entities? No. But I'm saying what could be happening. Now, I got to say, there are some great political action committees. There's some bad ones. Most of the great ones I know are families, moms and dads. They're just good parents fighting for their children, and they're fighting against these huge entities. I had to decide as an elected official, who was I going to support? The lobbyists or the moms and dads? Well, I love the moms and dads, but I'd warn them that you're competing with people who are going out the night before, and they're getting a big steak and a bottle of wine. One of the best quotes I ever heard from a politician, a friend of mine, a state senator, I don't have permission to use his name. I wish I did, because it's a great quote. He says, Ken, when you go out at night and you eat their steak and drink their wine, and the next morning you still vote against them, you know you're doing your job. When you go out the night before, eat their steak, drink their wine, and the next morning you still say, nope, I'm voting for the moms and dads, then you know you're doing your job. Well, there you go. Politics 101. Follow the money, honey. And most of you are probably saying, no, it's corruption 101. Follow the money, honey. And if you watch the national news right now, what's going on with corruption, abuse, and fraud at the federal and state government levels, I have just given you the tip, the very tip of the iceberg. This is Ken Mercer, Mercer Moments in American History. This is both a current event and historical event. Is it current news or is it history? Always end by giving a shout out to one school. And today it's the state of Nebraska. Please pray for the young men and women who love God, who love country, especially in today's politically charged environment. Those young people, they need our encouragement. They need our prayer. Today it's the state of Nebraska. Next time it could be your state. Ken Mercer with Politics 101. Follow the money, honey. Again, you may call it Corruption 101. Follow the money, honey. Thank you, my friends. God bless you.